Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Simons. I'm the Superintendent of Schools for the East Greenbush Central School District, and I'm so pleased that you have joined us for an opportunity to talk about the commencement of winter sports. I'm joined tonight by our Athletic Director, Mike Leonard, our Athletic Trainer, Sean Leggett, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, James McHugh, and being assisted in the booth by Mark Adam, our Communications Specialist, and Peter Goodwin, our Director of Technology. So right now we have approximately 45 people on the meeting, so we are going to get started. We do anticipate that more will join us as we proceed with our meeting. You may realize that it was only about 10 days ago that the New York State Department of Health, through the governor's office, approved schools to participate in what the state has classified as winter higher risk sports, subject to the approval of each respective county Department of Health. And our county Department of Health would be the Rensselaer County Department of Health. Since that announcement, our athletic director, our coaches, everyone here, along with our administration, have been working to assess whether or not we would be prepared to implement winter sports and what plans and specifications we would put in place to ensure that our district was operating those interscholastic athletic opportunities in accordance with the state guidelines, the county guidelines, and in coordination and communication with our district's medical director, Dr. Albert. We have completed that process and we presented those specifications and plans to the Board of Education last evening, and our Board of Education unanimously approved the operation of winter higher risk athletics. We've done a lot in a short period of time. We are confident that the plans that we have in place will allow your students to participate successfully in sports. However, your cooperation, your understanding, and your support for the expectations associated with our athletic program are critically important. It's not only the administration of the district, our coaches, that are responsible for ensuring a safe and healthy winter sports season. It's every athlete, every student, every parent, and every activity that we not only do inside of school, but outside of school. One of the things that has become very clear to me since the beginning of the school year is I can say with a great level of confidence that what occurs outside of school will impact our success or potential failure more than what happens in our classrooms, in our practices, or in our games and our contests. And all of the data that we have available regarding COVID-19, and we've had now approximately 91 student cases, which include 19 cases of students who are not attending in-person learning. Not one of those cases through contact tracing could be mapped back to a student-to-student contact within our schools or a staff-to-student contact within our schools. And all of the 91 cases through the contact tracing, which is guided by Rensselaer County Department of Health, all of those cases could be mapped back to an exposure that occurred outside of school. So as we move forward tonight, it's very important that we emphasize 4 different points. The first is vigilance. We all need to be vigilant, careful, and conscientious about the health and safety protocols that are in place in our district to operate sports and to operate our schools successfully during the day. That includes monitoring symptoms. If children are symptomatic, they should stay home from school and they should stay home from practices. It's very difficult for someone who's just experiencing a sore throat, a sniffles, to say, geez, I really don't want to miss that game tonight. However, the game is less important than the health of your child and the potential exposure of it to any of our student athletes who are participating in sports. So the first rule of thumb is If you're experiencing symptoms, you stay home, regardless of whether it's a game day or you miss a practice. And our coaches understand that expectation, and Mr. Leonard will be going over some of that. So vigilance is critically important. Be careful and be considerate and be conscientious regarding the health and safety protocols that are in place. Communication. If something is going on within your child's experience within sports, or if you become aware of a situation where your child could potentially have been exposed to COVID-19, err on the side of caution and communicate that to the coach, to Mr. Leonard, the athletic director, the principal, or Mr. Leggett. Make sure that that communication occurs in a timely manner so that we can know about it and we can respond to it appropriately. So communication, in addition to vigilance, is critically important. Cooperation. We need everybody to work together within the East Greenbush athletic community and within the school community to make sure that we have as successful a winter sports season as we had in the fall. We had a tremendously successful fall season. Mr. Leonard will be talking about that. And one of the things that we know happened in the fall regarding fall sports is everybody worked together. Everybody made sure that we looked out for each other, that we followed the safety guidelines, and that we made a successful season because it was built on a foundation of cooperation. And fourth, and very importantly, there will be a circumstance that may come up in which we have to contact you, our COVID coordinator, Karen Vincent, who's a registered nurse, or somebody from the county may contact you to look into a potential exposure through the contact tracing process. We ask everybody to be as transparent and forthcoming as possible. We would rather, as I said earlier, would rather have a missed opportunity for a student to participate in a practice or a game than risk an exposure to our students who are participating in athletics. And it is not only the students that are on the team, it's all of the potential exposures of the kids that are coming to the school the next day. And our district needs to be able to respond in a timely manner, to be able to do the contact tracing and to make sure that we have complete information about when your child may have first experienced symptoms, what steps have been taken to address those symptoms. When was the last time your child was at a practice, a game, or in class? These are questions that may come up and you may be asked, and we really rely on your best recollection of what has occurred and providing as much complete information as possible to our district staff so that we can respond appropriately. If we follow all of those parameters, vigilance, communication, cooperation, and transparency, we will have a very successful winter sports season. It'll be a short season, but it'll be a happy season, and that's what we want for all of your kids and for our entire community. At this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Leonard, our athletic director, to present a formal presentation. If you just give me a minute to make sure that I know what I'm doing. I'm going to ask the members of our panel if you can see my screen. So Mr.
Yes.
McHugh is giving me a thumbs up, so it looks like I have followed Mr. Goodwin's instructions. So Mike Leonard is our athletic director. He oversees our coaches, our physical education program, and also our health programs. And Mr. Leonard, you are on.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm very, very excited. As Mr. Simons, he usually steals all my thunder and my good lines, so some of it will be redundant. But at a very short amount of time, 10 days exactly, I want to thank a lot of people because we got to this point of a first day of tryouts. Mr. Simons, our Board of Education, Mr. McHugh, Marissa Cannon, Sean Leggett, Natalie Young, and all of our coaches. They have worked very hard over the last 10 days, getting a lot of different things in place so we can start today. So I want to thank all of them. Without their effort, there's no way we'd be at this point. If you could just please turn to the next slide. As Mr. Simon says, we had a great fall season. All of our teams completed the season. They competed hard. We were able to host senior night celebrations. And more particularly, like Mr. Simon said, our seniors, our juniors, and all of our athletes held each other accountable. They made sure that everybody was wearing their masks. Nobody was going to gatherings, parties, outside venues, outside sports. And we were able to maintain all of our teams throughout the entire fall. Unlike some other teams that we played against, a lot of them stumbled during the season and at the end of the season, where a lot of athletes went to gatherings, pizza parties, birthday parties, Sweet 16 parties, and there was a spread which shut down a lot of their teams for 2 to 3 weeks. I want to commend our full athletes again. They did a great job. It was a great experience. I've been here for 32 years. I know it was a short fall season, but I couldn't be proud of all of our athletes in the fall. But again, as Mr. Simon said, we need everybody's help. Everybody has to help with this, following all the safety protocols, watching out for one another, and keeping everybody safe. If you please go to the next slide. Real quick, the winter sports update, as Mr. Simon said, on January 22nd, Governor Cuomo gave the okay and kicked it to the local departments of health, and we got notification on the 28th from Rensselaer County, their announcement that high-risk sports can start. So right away, we started creating plans, health and safety procedures and protocols for our winter season. And we started signups this past Saturday, health history review form, and there's a new parental consent form. We had a coaches meeting this Monday. Last night, we had the Board of Education had a special meeting to approve winter sports. Again, without everybody's help, we wouldn't get here today. Next slide, please. Just real quick, it's been a tough season, or a tough sports season. So there's some of the dates that are coming up. Fall 2, there's been some questions. March 7th to May 1st, it's football and volleyball. And then in the spring, it's May 3rd to June 25th. Baseball will start April 28th. So right now, that's the timeline for the rest of the year. I do not see that changing. We usually have sectionals and states in the spring, starting at the end of May. New York State Public High School just canceled the state championships. And I know the section will look into having sectionals, or we'll have a culminating event within our league. Next slide, please. I'm not going to review this. This has been around a lot. The New York State Department of Health type of play, low risk, moderate risk, and high risk. They give definitions of each particular class and where each sport fits in. You can please read this at your leisure, but different sports fit in different areas. Next slide, please. This is very important. This is expectation for our student athletes. Again, we need everybody's help. With everybody's help, we'll have a successful season. This is only a very short, intense 6 weeks. We're going to have daily health screenings before each practice and game. That will include a temperature check, and each student athlete will be asked a variety of questions. That went extremely well. We have a lot of coaches returning from the fall that are coaching in the winter. That's helped greatly. All students are responsible for their own equipment. When they're in a gym or we're in the hallway, they have to make sure that all their personal belongings are spread out along a seat in the bleachers 6 feet away. We don't want grouping again. We don't want big groups putting all their bags together. We always got to think about social distancing. We are asking all student athletes to bring extra masks and individual hand sanitizer. That was very big in the fall. We have extra masks. All the coaches were giving a box of masks, and we'll have masks all over the place. But through the fall season, especially during competitions, a lot of our athletes like to change out like the nurse's mask at halftime. They just, the first mask got sweaty or got wet. So that's just something planning ahead. But we expect all of our student athletes to bring extra masks and individual hand sanitizers. We have a ton of hand sanitizer in all of our areas, in the gym, in the hallways. So please use that. We ask that we always maintain social distance of 6 feet, whether you're indoors or outdoors. Those parameters still exist whenever possible. Everybody must wear a face covering at all times. This is a little different. In the fall, there's a clause that if it wasn't tolerated, you can take it down, or you didn't have to wear it. And it ran into a lot of problems with teams backing out and not being able to play. So Section 2 made it a little bit more restrictive that during every aspect, everybody's got to wear a mask during competition, on the sidelines, on the bench, coming to practice, walking out of practice, masks are required. If there's still a medical exemption, you need a note from a doctor, and that has to be turned into one of our health offices at Columbia or Goff. But that's the only thing, is a documentation from a medical doctor that you can't tolerate the mask. So please make sure you always have a mask up. Wear your own appropriate clothing. Do not share clothing. A lot of times in the past, players would share jerseys or pennies. Please do not do that. Always wear your own stuff. Do not share. Make sure that all individuals should make sure they wash and clean their jerseys, practice gear after every game and practice. All student athletes should shower and properly clean every day after practice, after games. It's very important that we always stay clean. We can't keep the same practice jersey day in and day out. It's got to be washed. These are very important to maintain our safety. And on the very bottom, masks must be worn at all times. That's critically. Next slide, please. We're going to continue. This has been a rule since the fall. No hugging, high fives, handshakes, fist pumping. That's very important. Again, we always want to make sure that we maintain social distancing. Social distancing should be maintained during the national anthem on the sidelines. You'll see at a basketball game, we're going to have chairs staggered like they have in the NBA. There'll be five chairs, 6 feet beyond that, another 5 chairs. So the whole bench area is no longer 15 to 20 chairs in one row. It's all going to be staggered back in all of our events. So we always want to make sure that we're maintaining social distance. Even in basketball, on the bench, each player will be assigned a chair where they'll have their personal belongings and a water at a game situation. So just like the NBA, you see that a lot in college as well. We're going to be doing the same thing here. All equipment must be cleaned and disinfected daily. I can say that I stopped at girls basketball, and those coaches after the JV practice were washing down and disinfecting all the basketball. So the same thing with everybody's personal equipment, whether it's a gym bag, sneakers, please clean all your equipment daily. For all away contests, there will be assigned seating on the bus. We can only have 22 people on the bus. The coach will assign seats to and from each game. Again, making sure we identify cohorts where everybody is seating, just in case there's an issue, there's a problem, someone tests positive. So on a school bus, there's 22, they'll have assigned seats. Again, no team gatherings or parties will be permitted other than practice, no exceptions. We can't have a pasta party. We can't have a pizza party. I know one Suburban Council team, towards the end of the season, right before our culminating event, a team on their own, without their coach's knowledge, had a pasta party. Well, sure enough, someone got it and it wiped them out for the last week in the championship. So please, no exceptions. Our goals to make sure our kids have a wonderful season and we get through the season. All coaches have submitted a practice plan. They were trained and they went through a bunch of different procedures for the coaches on Monday. They have done a great job. Even today, walking around, doing all the temperature checks, doing cohorts, spreading kids out, making sure they all have their masks. They did a great job. Next slide, please. Athletes changing after school. So for example, if we have an A day and there is track practice right after school at 2:30, those athletes will come right down to the athletic hallway. Outside in the athletic hallway, there's about 55 red dotted lines, and all the athletes will stand on a red dotted line. They're 6 feet apart, and 2 to 4 athletes wearing masks will go in the locker room or bathroom area to change. They'll bring out all their personal items and carry those personal items to their practice area or spot. Do not leave anything in the locker room whatsoever. After they are all changed, those rooms are locked up, and the student athletes use the bathrooms on the other side of the gymnasium. Please bring your own water bottle. Make sure it's marked with your name. There's no sharing of water bottles, food, any of that type of stuff. Once again, we're trying to be safe. Student athletes should tell coaches immediately when they're not feeling well. If you're not feeling well, please stay home. Just contact the coach, shoot them an email that they're not feeling well. It may not be COVID, just not feeling good, but please communicate with your coach. On remote days, the students that are on remote days, please report changed, ready to go to your practice area, the gym or the hallway, ready to go. You're not going to be able to come in and change. So come ready to go. Same thing. If you're coming for a game and your bus is at 4 o'clock and you're coming from home, you should be ready to go in your game uniform with sweats ready to go. Next slide, please. Some expectations for parents. Notify the coach immediately if your child is ill. Keep them home. Another key component to this is making sure if you don't feel good, stay home. Provide items like a water bottle that's labeled hand sanitizer or towel to help your student athlete. Please disinfect and clean your child's personal equipment after each practice, especially a lot of our teams use practice jerseys. Please keep washing them daily. It's very important. And please, please, no team gatherings or parties will be permitted other than practice. No exceptions. That's a huge key. That component of outside influence going to a club team, it shouldn't happen. You're here. We're Columbia Athletics. We're one big family. We're going to work together to get through this entire season. Next slide, please. Spectator policy. Starting the season, there are no spectators. We will offer a senior night for each sport and will allow 2 spectators for each senior athlete. Those senior parents that will be coming in, they'll have a health screening upon arrival, including a temperature check. They'll be seating socially distant, restricted to just those 2 guests, those 2 spectators. They'll make sure they maintain 6 feet of distance in their seating area. We actually have to chart where you're seating, believe it or not, and we'll do that. We'll have someone that will check exactly where you are seating in the bleachers. All spectators must wear face coverings at all time. Even during halftime, you can't get up and go socialize with other people. We just got to maintain the safety of our athletes and everybody else that's at a game. We may consider allowing spectators for each athlete in the future, and games will be live streamed for parents and spectators. We are currently working on a Sports Scope app. It's very easy. It's easy for everybody to use. We viewed it. It does a really high quality viewing of a game. So it looks like we're going to do that. I'll make sure before the first games, I'll make sure everybody gets notified of what we're going to be doing. But Ryan Jones, one of our coaches, is heading that up. And it's an app. You download it. It's $5 per game. You go right on. You find your game, Columbia High School, and you just download it and you watch it. It gets the score. It's a very, very nice piece of equipment or a app to video our games. Next slide, please. And we're kind of to questions and answers, but again, a really key component is that everybody's got to work together. Everybody's got to help each other out to get through these 6 weeks. It's very critical. That's the only way. We did it in the fall. We could do it in the winter. And just watching other teams that have failed in our area, it's when teams got together, they went out to parties, big birthday parties, and something happened and it shuts down the entire program. Mr. Simons, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. One of the factors that is involved in whether or not or how we compete in the winter sports season, each county was asked to make the decision, and our Suburban Council League crosses over 4 different counties: Rensselaer County, Albany County, Saratoga County, and Schenectady County. And while Rensselaer County is not using an infection rate measure and has permitted us to play, each of the other counties that house school districts in which we play is using an infection measure. Encouragingly, that infection rate is declining in all of the counties that cross over into our Suburban Council League. So right now, Rensselaer County is at 4.3. That's a 7-day rolling average, which is used. Albany is down to 5.1. Saratoga is down to 4.0, and Schenectady 3.7. So the infection rate measure being used in Albany, Schenectady, and Saratoga is 4%. So 3 of the counties now, based on their own individual criteria, are able to have their schools play. So the potential for the Suburban Council and to compete against the same opponents that we typically compete against is becoming more of a realistic possibility. And so we're encouraged by these numbers. It was only 3 weeks ago that the infection rate was in the high 9s or the low 10s, depending on the county and region. So we're on a very positive trend. The only other thing I will say until I turn it over to Sean and take some questions is the reinforcement of the fact that it is the community spread that will impact us more than anything that we do with your students in the gyms or in our classrooms throughout this season and throughout really the remainder of the school year. So we've continued to repeat that. It is critically important. And we know it to be true based on our own experience with our student cases and with our staff cases. Before I turn it over for questions in the chat room, Sean Leggett is our athletic trainer. The district is fortunate to have a well-qualified and experienced athletic trainer. So I'll ask Sean if you have anything to add or to complement what Mr. Leonard spoke about.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. Yeah, I'm just going to echo, we had a great fall season. We had success on the field, off the field, and number one was we really didn't lose anyone to any contact tracing or into any cases during the season because our coaches did such a great job of maintaining social distance when we could, wearing masks at all costs during the games. And our kids really took it and played the games they love, wearing the mask, following the rules that we set forth. And I really think we can do it again here in the winter.
Thank you, Sean. Mr. McHugh is our assistant superintendent. Mr. McHugh, anything to add?
Quick reminder that, sports are a privilege. We see it as part of the educational process, and we understand the importance. There's a lot of high school students out there that have been dreaming their entire life about their senior season, and we've gone through a lot of unfortunate things associated with the COVID pandemic. So this is an opportunity for our kids to have some sense of normalcy and have that opportunity to play. It's important. A lot of planning went into it, and people need to really take advantage of this opportunity and help us get through the season successfully.
Thank you, Mr. McHugh. One of the biggest factors that influenced mine and the board's determination to approve sports in the winter season is we believe that it is beneficial to the social, emotional, and mental health and physical health of our students. And we understand that the students need activity. We understand the sense of isolation and lack of social engagement that has occurred really throughout this pandemic, but more so from the time period of after Halloween, as we moved into Thanksgiving and to the holidays, and really just coming down now at late January and into early February to be able to loosen up a little bit in terms of what we are able to provide the kids. So with all of this being said, I think you're hearing that we really are behind a successful season, and we really are here to support the kids and to you to be successful. And at this time, Mark Adam is going to help me by sharing some of your questions that you are able to post in the YouTube chat room. Mr. Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. Your job is fairly easy at this point. We do not have any questions in the chat room.
Somebody out there has to.
Actually, Mr. Simons, can I jump in? I just got a few emails.
Okay.
Real quick, I just want to kind of go over the competition schedule. A lot of parents are already asking for schedules. With Mr. Simons said that a few of our league members might be in, which is Schenectady County and Saratoga County. As we go through this, it's going to be like a 2-week or 1-week block of schedules. So I can tell you this: on Friday, February 12th, the boys and girls basketball team will play in person versus Niskayuna. The boys are home, girls are away. And then on Saturday, the 13th, the varsity girls are home. The varsity boys are at Schenectady. The varsity girls are home with Schenectady. And both JV boys and girls basketball are going to be playing at Troy at 11 o'clock. So as we kind of go through this uncharted waters, what teams we can play, what teams we can't, I'm going to most definitely try to get some games for all of our kids. So as you can see on a Saturday, Schenectady's only offering varsity. I was able to pick up 2 JV games for our boys and girls program at Troy. And I think that's great for our kids to get going. All of our cheerleading competitions will be virtual. They'll be held at Green Meadow. And basically they'll be virtual, and 3 judges will watch our girls' routine. They'll score it, and then they'll watch other teams throughout that day. Our indoor track team will also be doing some virtual meets, and they may end up doing some in-person meets. For example, they may go to Shenendehowa, throw the disc, do high jump, pole vault. It would just be our team competing at a set time. They would clean that facility. We would leave, and another team would come in and compete in indoor track. So really, it's just our cohort. It's our kids together. We're not going to be mixing an indoor track team. So we're working on something like that to give some benefit, because we have no facilities for indoor track. No colleges are welcoming us. So we're working on some things that might not be all the events in indoor track, but I think it'll be giving a lot of our athletes a great opportunity. So as far as the competition, I'll send it out hopefully bi-weekly, but it will be depending on who's in, who's out, and most definitely we'll find some teams to play.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Adam, any questions?
No questions.
Well, we'll give it another 30 seconds or so, and if anyone wants to fill the time by sharing something that hasn't already been shared, go right ahead.
I just want to also say we're going to continue to do signups the next couple of days. We realized that we started signups on Saturday. We weren't in person on Tuesday because of the snow and today. So we'll continue to do signups, give kids opportunities to try out. That's very important. We're also going to try to maximize the best we can in the capacity we can to maintain as many kids within our programs as possible. As Mr. Simons and Mr. McHugh indicated, I think it's great. It's great for our kids' well-being. It's great for everybody's well-being that we started. So we may have like 15 on a team with a couple managers, trying to utilize a lot of different people in different areas just to be part of something important.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Mr. Adam, I received a text from someone asking if we could explain how to post a question. There are some student athletes out there who are interested in asking some questions.
So if they're watching the live stream on our website, there's the web story and there's the embedded video. If you click on the video and click on the YouTube logo, that'll bring you to YouTube where we're actually live streaming this. And then once in there, you can, you'll see a chat room sidebar, and you can type in your question there.
Okay, so let's give it a few minutes. Apparently there are folks out there that do want to ask some questions, so we'll give it a little bit.
We just got a question. When do spring sports begin?
Mr. Leonard, you went over that schedule on the slide. Would you just repeat?
I'll just kind of go
everybody?
over it again because I got a couple texts. Fall 2 season, which is March 7th to May 1st, will be football and volleyball. And the spring season is May 3rd to June 25th. Baseball will start the 28th. They need a couple extra days for pitchers and catchers. And that's baseball, lacrosse, outdoor track, softball, and boys tennis.
Very good. Is that schedule on our website in the athletic department? And if not, can we post that, Mr. Adam? So everybody can take a look at that.
Yes, we'll put that up.
Good. Other questions?
Okay, next question. Which forms are necessary? We completed 2 and our pediatrician sent the 3rd, but our son was unable to practice tonight. What is the other form we need to complete?
Mr. Leonard?
It's the health history review form that actually has the COVID on this page 2. There's the bottom box has some COVID questions in there. So that's a new form that's been sent out numerous times. I know, Mark, you have sent that out. And then the parent consent form. Really, there's only 2 big forms that need to be sent out. Is the health form, and that, I know that's on our website, Mark, and I know that that's been posted through the athletics. if
So
that
let's talk
individual,
about where that is. Let's talk about where that is. I'm sorry, Mr. Leonard. Let's talk about where that is on the website and where people can access that. Just for a minute.
I'll have to check on the website, but it should be on the athletics part of the website. I'll check that right after this meeting when we close down and make sure that those forms are listed under registration.
and then all those copies of all those forms are sent out to the coaches, so they can also try to send them out to as many people. If this person can contact my office tomorrow, we can figure that out, what they're missing. Like I said, we probably took about 50, 60 phone calls today, troubleshooting. But if they can contact my office in the morning, we'll take care of whatever forms. We can either email them or they can drop it off or stop in. We can take care of that.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Can you give your phone number real briefly? What's your extension number?
518-207-2080.
Thank you very much. Okay, other questions?
Is the no spectator rule for all schools?
In the Suburban Council, it will be for all schools. We're doing all this together. I know that there may be an opportunity, depending on where we are with schedules, where we might play someone else in Rensselaer County. But as I've talked to a lot of the Rensselaer County, they're actually following our plans. They've actually asked us to send our plans to them. But it's something that I would have to work out with those individual schools that aren't. But the expectation is that all suburban schools, council schools are doing the same thing, starting out with no spectators. We really need to try to get things going first for our student athletes, get the setup for, say, a basketball game, how that's going to look, and checking in a new team to see that process, cleaning the process. When a JV game is over, all the JV players leave. We have to clean all that area, clean all the chairs, the score table. So we want to kind of get that down before we start phasing in more spectators. Because once we have parents, say, at a JV game, we have to clean all that area too. So it's a management, it's a cleaning service, those type of things.
Just two things to mention that, impact that decision. One, different from the fall, these sports are being conducted indoors, which is a factor involved in potential spread. And secondly, the infection rate within the community is higher than what it was in September and October. So those are two differences between what's occurring now, where we are not permitting spectators initially, than what we were able to do in the fall. Those two factors are primary in that decision-making. Mr. Adam?
Can parents drive their children to games like we did in the fall?
They can most certainly drive their student athletes to a game, but unfortunately, depending on it's the beginning of the season, those spectators, they won't be able to go in. But they would just have to, we have a form, I'll send those forms out. Once teams are selected, all those forms, the transportation forms, will go out to all the coaches for all the kids. And we'll also post those forms.
Thank you.
Is the practice requirement being waived?
No. You have to make sure you meet the 6 practice mandatory, 6 practice before you participate in a contest.
You mentioned that we may have in-person track with Schenectady, but I didn't hear running. Is that event not happening?
No, it depends. They've already had a few virtual meets, a few schools when it was nice out. The tracks were cleared. They did some running. They had some opportunities to run outside on track. It was a little cold, but we're working with other ADs and other schools within our league to try to offer some type of in-person or virtual track meets, including running, whatever events we could do, depending on the outside element and the weather, as well as what we could do inside.
That's it for questions right now.
Okay, if you do have any further thoughts or questions, you can always email Mr. Leonard, our athletic director, or email me, and we will make sure that we respond. Again, we're wishing everybody a very successful season. We're off to a good start with practices that were held today. And again, we're just reminding everybody to be extra cautious so that we can have tremendously successful, short but successful winter season. With that, I appreciate everybody and the sacrifices that you make as parents to support your children participating in interscholastic athletics. It is important. The only thing I will wrap up with is, because of the unique circumstances associated with the pandemic, we're less worried about the competitive element of our sports program, although that is critically important under normal circumstances to help kids develop the life skills that they need to be successful. We're more focused right now on the engagement aspects of this, social, emotional engagement, and the relationships to make sure that our kids are healthy, successful, and have opportunity. And that's what our athletic program is about. And we appreciate that you have registered your child, and we will all work together to make sure that they are healthy, that they are safe, and they have fun opportunities during these next 5 or 6 weeks. And I appreciate everybody joining us this evening. Thanks to Mark Adam, Peter Goodwin for making this happen. Thanks to Mike Leonard, our athletic director, Sean Leggett, our trainer, and our assistant superintendent, Jim McHugh, for joining us for this meeting. And I wish everybody continued success throughout the school year. Thank you very much, and have a healthy and safe evening.
Thank you.